This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another edition of the Movie Review of the Day here on the Pop Experience. I'm Steve Riddle, back again for another go-round. And today we are continuing with our theme week this week, where we are looking at some of the greatest comedies of all time. This, of course, is listed on our little spreadsheet here as Classic Comedies 1, meaning we are going to do this again because, as we all know, there are so many great comedies that have been released over the years. And today I'm covering one of the most iconic ones from the 1970s, and definitely one that, you know, almost over 50 years later, does still hold up, even though, you know, some of the content may not fly in this day and age, as I'll talk about here shortly. But that is, of course, the film Blazing Saddles. This was released on February 7th, 1974, a budget of $2.6 million, box office $119.6, so very, very successful film. It stars Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, Slim Pickens, David Huddleston, Claude Ennis Starlet Jr., Mel Brooks, who of course also directed, Harvey Korman, Madeline Kahn, among others. It follows a black man who is named the sheriff of this town out west, and he is tasked with protecting the town from having a railroad built through it by the I believe it was the Attorney General of the governor, while also dealing with of course, the obvious racism of the town. So, as I usually do, we will talk about the 3 things that worked and 3 things that didn't work. So, 3 things that worked. Number 1, as I said, you know, this is a film that is definitely a product of its time and would definitely not be made today in 2026. And I feel this is something that's, you know, missing a lot today in modern comedy, where, I mean, this film is not afraid to go in certain directions, particularly, you know, with the, you know, the overt racism against Bart because he's obviously black. You've got, at one point there's a scene where Mel Brooks plays a Jewish Indian and speaks in Yiddish, and obviously is in red face, which again you would never see today. That would get him canceled today. You've got you know, all these different you know, I think really what this film does is just, you know, it pretty much goes by the, you know, the sentiment of like, everything's fair game. We're just going to offend everybody, and if you don't like it, you know, pound sand, basically. And again, I feel like that's missing a lot in today's comedy, just because, you know, there's people get so offended easily nowadays that, you know, it just, you know, a film like this wouldn't fly today. But if, you know, and to be honest, it was even in, you know, when it first released, it, you know, kind of struggled a bit at first, but I think as the years have gone on, it's definitely gotten its flowers. So, so I do have to mention that. Number 2, there weren't a lot of, at least in my remembrance, a lot of comedies that spoofed westerns. You know, a lot of the westerns we saw back, you know, we'd see a lot of, you know, very serious, very, you know. You got your gunslingers and your showdowns at high noons, that sort of thing. And for this one to kind of just take that and kind of boil it down to just, you know, the lowest common denominator, I think really kind of really made it work. And the fact that, you know, even though this film is supposed to be set in 1874, the dialogue uses a lot of, you know, of language that you would hear in 1974. Like somebody mentions, like one of the characters' name is Howard Johnson. You know, that's a no inside joke. One of the bad guys uses a, you know, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? Which again, when, you know, how would they know that? There was another like reference in there that I missed. Like Cecil DeMille, that was the one. was mentioned, which again, how would someone from 1874 know that? And we even see in the film Count Basie, who does a lot of the who does some of the orchestra or the music for the film, is actually we see him in the film as Bart's kind of running through the frontier. So again, I thought that was really well done, and again, just the film definitely doesn't it doesn't take itself seriously, again, like a lot of westerns do, and I think that definitely helps it, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's a comedy. It's not supposed to be serious. And number 3, the character of Bart is a very interesting one, because he's like, and I think a lot of this, because thanks to Cleavon Little, who plays him, is he's very smooth. He's a very intelligent person, or a very intelligent guy. Again, afraid to kind of make fun of himself. We see him kind of, at one point when he first gets to Rock Ridge, and they at one point try to look like they're going to kill him. He kind of puts a gun to himself and makes it seem like he's being held hostage. And the character and the townspeople are supposed to be so dumb that they believe it. There's also where the character, the baddie Mongo, when he does comes in like a telegram boy, and it's like, candygram for Mongo, and then you hear the Looney Tunes theme play as he leaves, which again, it's just it's so ridiculous, but it works so well, and again, that's a testament to Mel Brooks as a director, and as a because I think I'm pretty sure he did helped do the screenplay too, so. So again, just those additions there, I think those making that character the way it was, I think really helped help the film out a lot. So, and now we'll do the 3 things that didn't work. Which, to be honest, again, there wasn't a lot that didn't work, but there was a few things here. Number 1, I wish we had got more of Madeline Kahn's character, Lily von Stupp. She, I think, for the little point, she's brought in to be to kind of seduce Bart, and she ends up falling in love with them. And after that, we don't see her again, like till the very end, where she kind of seduces the German soldiers, or kind of distracts the German soldiers that come to attack the fake town. And I thought Madeline Kahn did a really good job as in that character. And again, I just wish we would have seen a little bit more of her. Number 2, the idea of, the ending kind of baffles me, because they got this plan where they built this fake town with fake residents, and they kind of set the outlaws up, and that part I thought was a really good plan, and then they set off, Jim ends up setting off the dynamite to kind of, and this leads to this big fight, but then it turns into where we literally break the fourth wall, and it turns into we find out, we're not in, we're actually watching a movie, because they actually then show Hollywood, and we see another studio, and then we get to this big fight, and again, it is funny, and it's good. It's a funny bit, but it just seems, I don't know, it just seems, if you're not following along, you're not in on the joke, I think it will go over your head. And then there's the point where even the main villain, Lamar, ends up actually in Mann's Chinese Theater watching the film that he's in. And again, it's like, if you're not in on the joke, you're going to find it kind of stupid. And I think for as good as Mel Brooks was in the directing of the film, I think he may have just went a little bit too overboard with that little with that last bit there. And again, as good as the scene is, as funny as it is, again, maybe a little bit too far, a little bit too much there. And number 3, like I said in my, to kind of counteract my, kind of counterbalance with one of the things I thought worked, where the film was a product of, it's sad that, we're at a point now where a lot of people are just so easily offended that, no one can can take themselves. It's like everyone has to take themselves so seriously, and it's like they can't just laugh at themselves and take the fact that it's just comedy and it's just supposed to be for you know for laughs, and the silliest things can get people canceled, and it's just I mean, I do understand it in a sense, but in another sense, it's like again, people just are way too serious, and it's just I wish we could go back to the days of where we can just make a film and making fun of people, and people just laugh about it, and it's again, it's just one of those things where I just wish we could go back to that. So, but again, that's nothing to do with this film. It's just more of just Hollywood in general, in my personal opinion. And now we'll do my little awards here. So my MVP is definitely Cleavon Little. Like I said, he brings a lot of great. He really brings Bart to life on the screen with his his charisma, his his big smile, and his just ability to ability to make fun of himself. Because I think he knew when he was casting this character that he was going to have to make fun of himself a little bit, and he had no problem with that. And he really brought that with and he really brought the goods here as Bart. And I do want to give a nod to Gene Wilder as well as Jim. And he and Little really play off each other incredibly well. They make a really good duo, and they really just just bring you can immediately see the chemistry between the two when they're on the screen together. And then also do want to kind of bring up Harvey Korman as Hedley Lamar. Again, just one of just a really good asshole character, and a typical crooked attorney general. So I want to bring that up as well. My MVP of the film, I would have to say, I think I had to say it's Bart. I think he definitely, again, he's he's such a smooth talking, smart guy where he's just again not afraid to make fun of himself, and just putting himself in these situations that he knows he's gonna get out of, but he has to convince everybody that it's such a that's all a good idea, and he just plays it off really, really well. So I had to say that. And my least favorite character, I mean, there weren't a lot of bad characters in this film. I think I would probably have to say, it's hard because again, there's a lot of there's not many bad characters here, but I think I'd probably have to go with Taggart, played by Slim Pickens, who is kind of one of Lamar's minions, and he is kind of annoying for the most part. Like he's such an asshole that you're happy when Bart hits him in the head with a shovel, and he's just so he's the epitome of just of dumb muscle, and even Lamar's kind of annoyed by him at points. So I do have to so I do believe that. So I've had to go with that. Favorite scene? Again, it's hard. There's a lot of really good scenes in here. And I do, and again, as much as I kind of, crapped out in my three things that didn't work, the final bit there at the end where they're, fighting on the all the different sets and leading to the big food fight at the end, I thought was really well done. But I have two scenes that I kind of want to make out. The one where the outlaws are kind of in the campfire and they're just all eating beans, and all you hear for a good 2-3 minutes is just a bunch of just these guys all farting and burping, and it's just there's no dialogue until they ask one of them asks Taggart for more beans. He's just like, I say you've had enough. Like that's just something so simple, just played for laughs. I thought was really good. And then the other scene I want to mention is the scene in the cabaret where Von Stupp sings her song "Tired," where again, Madeline Kahn is just absolutely perfect in that role, and she, just again so over the top with the, the really bad German accent, and just, letting it all out there. I thought she did a really good job in that role, and that's another really, really fun scene there. And then for my final grade, like I said, this film, almost over 50 years later, still holds up really well. Crazy to think that it's only Mel Brooks' third film. Of course, his first was 1967's The Producers, which I'm sure we'll probably touch on at some point. And then he did a film in 1970 called 12 Chairs, called The 12 Chairs, which I have to look into. But this would, I think, really set him off, because then after this, he does, Young Frankenstein. He eventually gets to History of the World Part 1, Spaceballs. So he really kind of hits his stride here following up with this film. And like I said, still holds up really well. Some great performances in it. Great, brings a lot of good laughs. So I have to go, I'm not going to give it the perfect score, because again, there are some things in there that I thought just kind of keep it from there, but I am going to go 9.5 out of 10. It's still a really funny movie. It's a great, again, a picture of the time frame of the early 1970s, and for again a genre that doesn't get spoofed a lot in terms of westerns. It's definitely one of the best of all time, and I'd be interested to see if there are any other like western films that are spoofed on like that, But yeah, it's a great comedy. It's definitely one worth watching at least once, and it's definitely one that and it flows. It's it's just over 90 minutes, so it's not a long film, and it definitely it keeps your attention throughout the majority of it. So. So there you go. That is going to be it for me for today, but I will be back later this week to talk about another great comedy, which I think will hold up very well as well, as we kind of move from the Western spoof to to a sports comedy film. So I'll just kind of tease you with that. But thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to support us as we continue to grow this pod amongst all of our other pods here on this feed and all of our other feeds. I know that we are getting ever closer to WrestleMania, so I know, especially at North-South Connection, they're going to do a lot of great evergreen content there in regards to WrestleMania. So keep listening to that and keep on supporting us. We definitely appreciate it. So with that, I am Steve Riddle. This has been the movie review of the day here on the Pop Experience, and we'll see you next time.